something that just showed up on your desk, Iran's decision to test missiles over the weekend. State Department says that looks like that's in violation of a specific UN ban.
Yes.
What are you going to do about that?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we have a lot of experience in New York dealing with violations of the UN Security Council resolutions. The resolution banning launches that appear to be like the one that Iran just carried out have been on the books for a long time, and this is not the first time they have done that. So we will, if in fact, again, we're just getting the specifics, but all the indicators are that it would be a violation of the UNSCR. We'll go to the Security Council, present it, and then look at what further steps we can take. One of the really important features in implementation of the recent Iran deal to dismantle Iran's nuclear program is going to have to be enforcement of the resolutions and the standards that remain on the books.
This is a test case,
yes,
in many ways.
It is, and we need other countries to step up. You know, as you know, the P5+1, the reason we were able to get a strong deal that does cut off the pathways to Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon is because the P5+1, you know, the permanent members of the Security Council, which include Russia and China, we were able to stay united, and we need to be united now on enforcement of existing sanctions resolutions.
Big question there, though. The White House has said it doesn't appear to violate the nuclear accord that was just negotiated. Doesn't this violate the spirit, if not the text, of that deal?
I don't even think we need to get to that question. If again, it is the law, the facts are as we believe them to be, it would violate UN Security Council resolutions. So, again, the deal itself was on a specific set of requirements. The UN Security Council resolutions that remain in place are ones that we need to ensure are enforced.
Mm-hmm. But you still see it going into effect this weekend, October 18th, as scheduled?
I think we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to, in New York, make sure that there's accountability for any violation of the UN Security Council resolutions.
All right, we'll be watching, I'm sure. As you say, it's an important test case. I want to talk to some of what your approach has been to this job. You know, we are talking a lot about leading with purpose, and when people describe your role within the administration and how you've approached this job as ambassador, they often refer back to the job you had previously, how activism, how humanizing conflict has really influenced your approach. You're one of the few U.S. officials who comes face-to-face with Russia on an almost daily basis, and you have said they have really held the agenda hostage at the UN. What is it like for you, day in, day out, watching the agenda you are pushing just get held hostage by Russia? How do you deal with that? You know, it's actually, it's a mixed picture. It's a little more mixed than that. I think there's no question that on one of the gravest foreign policy issues and humanitarian catastrophes of our lifetime, Syria, the agenda has been held hostage. The ability to push forward with a political solution, negotiations to bring about the kind of transition that would cause a lot of fighters to put down their weapons and focus now on terrorism and on state building and so forth. We're a long way from that because Russia is pursuing a totally different course that is very counterproductive. But on Iran, as I mentioned, Russia stood with us, not only in putting in place the toughest sanctions measures that we had seen, but then following through and standing by us as we push for tough requirements in the... Yet they're standing with Iran in Syria.
Exactly, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, but we continue to manage, you know, a whole series of African crises where there's not that much obstructionism. They don't love sanctions, and I think the experience of being sanctioned over Ukraine and Crimea has made that sort of predisposition against sanctions even more acute. So that can make it challenging. But by and large, Syria and Ukraine, and now potentially Iraq, depending on how they move forward, I would put to one side, and you know, the rest of our council agenda we're able to pursue.